Let's talk some NFL, National Football League, and let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, the Raiders. And we've heard the talk, and Aaron Rodgers whispering sweet nothing in Davante Adams'
I can't wait to play with him again.
ear and whatnot. And I just wonder, is that noise, whispering and all that stuff out there because Davante has kind of gave him the green light to be like, I really don't. He went there for Derek Carr, right?
Yes.
He went there for his ex-college teammate, quarterback, Derek Carr. He wanted to move out of Green Bay. All that stuff, I get it. Makes sense. But that doesn't mean that the Raiders were going to keep Derek Carr. And the first thing they do is they jettison him out.
Moved on from him, yep.
Right? After the first year. So then your Davante, his numbers have gone down. Who is the guy? Aiden O'Connell? Is that the guy's name, the quarterback?
It's a mix between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, which I'll call backup quarterback central.
Okay. And if you're Davante Adams, they're hoping to get to the Hall of Fame too. My God, you're looking at it going, is this really where I want to be? Like, really? Where are the Raiders going? Home, dinner, maybe a show? They're not going anywhere. Martin, I mean, if you're the Raiders and you could maybe fleece the Jets and get something and start the clock again, right? I think the Raiders should trade Davante Adams. Send him to Aaron Rodgers. Send him to the Jets. Let them have a reunited and it feels so good moment. Am I crazy?
I say this. If the Raiders are not ready to make a massive trade for a quarterback, then the answer is trade Davante Adams. Because we was talking about Michael Parsons, and is he a top 5 edge rusher? You definitely got a top 5 edge rusher in Max Crosby on the other side, right? You got a guy in Antonio Pierce that they love to play for. And we saw that last season, and they found a cornerback in Jack Jones who, if he can stay out of trouble, is a shutdown type corner. The guy who remember the guy who intercepted Mahomes on Christmas Day and handed the ball up into the stands to the Raider fan? Everybody said he was holding from a Chiefs kid. Yeah, that guy can play, straight up play. If you're not going to trade for go get a guy at quarterback, because I think you call Jerry. See, we'll pay Dax $57-58 million a year. Trade him over this way. If you're not willing to do that, then go ahead and trade Davante Adams, because I know you haven't seen this probably, the Netflix series Receiver.
Right.
Where Davante Adams is one of the featured guys. Did you know he's 5th all-time in red zone touchdowns? I did.
Who was that playing? Who was he playing with?
With the Raiders. At the time, it was like they followed him last season.
Right. You're talking about just last season or all time?
No, all time.
No, when he was with the Packers, right.
Well, he also scored some with the Raiders, but his point was, I've scored 3 touchdowns this year playing with Jimmy Garoppolo as my quarterback. He's like, I'm good at this, basically. I can get up with the best of him. And you saw him throughout that series. He was frustrated. He was.
I saw the thing. I saw clips like I'm getting effed up every game, and I'm getting hit a lot.
And he's,
right.
It's evident that he is not happy with his. That he was not happy with it, and he started to smile a little bit after they fired McDaniels and went on to AOC. But the reality, Aiden O'Connell. But the reality of the situation is Aiden O'Connell's a 4th-round rookie who ended up getting sacked 7 times against the Chargers, who then fired their coach. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it ends up. Like, these guys are not NFL quality starting quarterbacks, and if you're not going to go get one, you may as well go ahead and trade Davante Adams, just like he moved on from Josh Jacobs this offseason.
Yeah, I don't see why you would hold on to him without a quarterback. I don't think that makes any sense. If you're the Raiders, you got to determine, where are you, in or out? What are you? I know they got a couple plays you just mentioned on the defensive side, right? So are you really vying, Martin? Are you really going to make a push? Not with those 2 quarterbacks, you're not.
No, I would love
that's the problem.
Just as a fan of the game and a guy who, I know some of those guys down at Long Beach Poly where Antonio Pierce was coaching in high school and all that. And I'd love to see Antonio Pierce be set up to a situation where he can actually have an opportunity to try to win. And so I'd love to see them go get a quarterback. But if you're not going to do that, it makes no sense to keep Davante out there, because the Raiders have weapons. Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers are 2 really good wide receivers. Davante Adams is a Hall of Famer, and Jacoby Myers, to me, is one step below the top tier of guys. When you look at the work that he does, the stuff he puts out on tape, Jacoby Myers can play as well.
Right, but the only issue is we get that, and he could pad some stats for sure. I mean, he's going to make some plays and get some. But if you're not really trying to win, is Davante Adams? You know what I mean? I'm looking at it from that standpoint, where he might continue to be frustrated.
Well, the move would be to call the Jets, who Aaron Rodgers has over a barrel. Call the Jets and say, look, what's it going to cost? Or have Aaron Rodgers, really, who's down there playing golf somewhere right now. Call Aaron Rodgers and tell him, look, go tell your GM you want Davante Adams, figure this out, and give us, your first-round picks are coming up soon. Whatever picks are coming up soon. And then Aaron and Davante ride off into the sunset together. Because it will both make the Jets better right here, right now. But the haul you would get, because the whole reason that Jets coaching staff still has their jobs right now is because Aaron Rodgers got hurt on the 4th Player of the Year. And they just decided to take a mulligan because they had already decided they couldn't win with Zach Wilson. And then 4 snaps in.
Even though they knew the year before with Zach Wilson. That to me was the biggest mistake ever made.
Not even being funny. It's one of the things that I, as a radio host and a sports commentator, one of the things I couldn't believe I missed it. I couldn't believe I didn't see it in the moment that Zach Wilson was still the backup quarterback. And then all of a sudden he's trotting back out there. Because if you should have moved on from him entirely. Right? They should have moved on from him entirely
they
prior
had already
to that
said,
year.
They had already said he couldn't play. Right, that he couldn't play. And then you have an older quarterback. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to, Martin, as you look on your team and you evaluate and say, worst possible scenario, exactly. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Do we want to put Zach Wilson in? Am I right? Like that has to be thought about at the meeting. You can't go, well, Aaron's going to play all 17 games and we don't have to worry about it. Just hold him and we don't have to pay him or whatever. It won't hurt us on the cap. Like, you can't look at it like that. You got to say the worst case scenario is Aaron Rodgers has 4 snaps and then we got to play Zach Wilson.
Right. Or
and then try to convince
he gets
people.
hurt in training camp. What have you gotten hurt in training camp? Something like that. As a commentator, I was mad. I was like, damn, I just completely missed that. But if I'm the Raiders, that's my move, unless I'm going to trade for a quarterback and get somebody in here who's an adult in the room. Because both Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, as funny and eclectic as Gardner Minshew is, he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's just evident by his career thus far in the league. Like, he could get you a couple games. He's a quintessential backup. I think both of those guys are quintessential backup. They're starting more than 5 games for you. You're probably in a bad spot.
Right. And you're probably not winning anything. You know what I mean? Like guys like that can play for a few weeks.
Exactly.
They just can't play longer than that. And that's where they are. The Raiders, man, they made moves and stuff, and you thought, man, are they trying to do something? When you go get a Davante Adams, I mean, that's like a on the cusp Hall of Famer. I mean,
I think he's a surefire Hall of Famer.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I say no is it's hard for wide receivers to get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's not easy.
No.
So there's a lot of guys who are really good who are either haven't gotten in or it took a while for them to get in. I don't know why. I don't like the system that they use. You know what I mean? It should just be based on if you got the numbers or not. Not this sports writers have to make a case for you. You know what I mean? I don't even get that. Davante, but that's the way that they do it in the NFL, so that's why I think it's a rougher path for wide receivers.
Sure, but I think you ask your favorite wide receiver who his favorite wide receiver is, the answer is Davante Adams. The Raiders need to make 1 or 2 calls. Either call the Jets and say, what's your price for Davante? Or call the Cowboys and say, what's your price for Dak Prescott? Those are the 2 moves that the Raiders should 1 or 2. That's what they should do if they're going to plan on keeping Davante Adams, who's 30 years old right now, through the rest of the prime of his career.
And the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, I know that they played for him at the end, when he took over and stuff, and people were excited about it. But I just see them in a malaise. I just don't see them. I don't see anything going forward. I mean, I see them as taking steps back, obviously, at the quarterback position. So I think the only thing that makes sense is to try to build and get something rather than waste a talent like Davante Adams. And I know he makes sure any quarterback you have going to be better because he's a great receiver. But you're giving that up. You could get a younger or somebody else, right, to be a wide receiver, to grow with Aiden O'Connell, if that's who you're going to put out there, or at least add some other pieces to this team that needs pieces.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great opportunity to do it. I just want them to give Antonio Pierce a shot. Because how many times do we see this happen where, you see the black guy finally get an opportunity to coach a team, and then all of a sudden they do nothing for him, and then, 3 years later, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, he's out of there and he never gets another opportunity. When we see recycling of coaches more than we see recycling of plastic bottles in the United States.
Did you write that ahead of time?
No, off the top.
Very nice. Yeah. So this will be interesting. What's your gut feeling of this happening? Because I don't feel good about it. I think it makes sense. It's logical. But where do you think?
I don't think he'll be traded.
Right?
No, I don't think the Raiders will move on from him because, again, if I'm Antonio Pierce, the first thing I do if you trade Davante Adams, I'm storming into the GM's office and said, what in the hell was that about? Right? Like, how do you expect me to try to win anything in this division? But the division to me is not up for the taking, but because Kansas City is still there, and Kansas City will win this division overwhelmingly probably. But you got a situation in Denver where the quarterback is iffy. You got a situation in Los Angeles with the Chargers where they got a new head coach. We'll see how he is. Jim Harbaugh coming in. I know a lot of people are high on him, but that roster is markedly worse than it was last year.
I agree. They've downgraded.
They have downgraded significantly across the board. It feels to me like the wild card is in play in the AFC if you could just get a guy to throw Davante the ball. I don't think AOC or Gardner Minshew is one of them.
Right. It's too late in the game, though. Who are you getting at this point?
I tell you, I'll call Jerry. He said, look, I don't have no problem paying Dak Prescott $57 million a year. You seem to have one. What would you like in return? I'll try to. If I was a team that didn't have a quarterback, I'd be trying to get Dak right now.
Really? At $57 million?
Yeah. The cap's just going to keep going up and up and up. You sign me up for like a 4-year deal, something like that. Yeah, sign me up. I would take the next 4 years of Dak Prescott, who's coming off, like Clarence Hill said earlier, the best year of his career, second to MVP voted.
Okay, and postseason?
Look, hey, they need help in the postseason. The Cowboys haven't been able to get it done, but that don't mean he can't get it done here.
He hasn't played well either. Let's not. You're right. The Cowboys haven't done a lot, but Dak's numbers in the postseason have been horrendous. I mean, even 2 years ago, I mean, he had a stinker at home. Last year, of course, they got ripped. He had 3 picks or something. He was awful.
You got to look at the market, man. Kirk Cousins is older than me. Tore his Achilles tendon and got 4 years, $180 million, $100 million guaranteed on the open market.
That's another bad. That's
but I'm just saying, if that's the going cost here,
yeah, but that ain't $60 million. I think it's ridiculous, but it ain't $60 million.
Dak is young, 4 years younger, and
I get it.
5 years younger and better.